So, I am ready now, after settling in, to return of my journey to tell you how my life stress journey to my ancestors has developed. Before jumping ahead, looking back, the journey started 2 years ago after I read the book by Olga Kariditi, Entering the Circle, and all the Anastasia books by Vladimir Mikre, where I started to remember where I came from and my ancestors from the Altai mountain region. So I picked up the thread, my ancestral thread, so to say, and started my journey of remembering how I got alienated after moving from Kazakhstan to Germany, and now picking up the thread of remembrance. So I started to pick up my life's thread of remembrance and stitch my destiny towel following a very old Slavic tradition, and also my protective dress with the 7 symbols of my main goddesses, called Beregines in Russia, standing for my main 7 female powers from birth on, with the main power being the raven, ancestral wisdom. So listening to this raven's wisdom of my ancestors calling, I got a message to contact Siberian shamans and to plan the trip to the sacred Beluga mountain as described in the book Entering the Circle by Olga Kariditi. And shortly after, the Siberian shaman Ahamkara just crossed my path on Facebook. And I started to listen more and more to these intuitive impulses and started to plan my trip to the Beluga mountain in Siberia, together with the Siberian shaman Ahamkara. And this summer it actually happened. I, I traveled there and stood there with my beloved partner just a few kilometers away from this beautiful female sacred mountain Beluga, feeling so strongly rooted and like coming back home. We also camped at the male river Bia and the female river Khatun, which both come together into the big river Ob, and there is a story about the unhappy love from between Bia and Khatun. And through our trip, together with my beloved, we realized that we live in the times of reconciliation between the male and the female. We have also done a lot of rituals, like here, for example, the Golden Sun ritual, which stands for reconnecting all countries from the old European continent. Here also with my self-embroidered belt, standing for getting together all the different threads, the lost threads, and rebuild, bringing them all together and bring some healing. And remembering my calling and remembering from the Anastasia books, we also stayed in an Anastasia village, seeing how these principles from the Anastasia books are really being lived out in this village, and the people being so radiant and present and in so much peace, which with Mother Earth, it was beautiful. And I continued to follow my life's thread of doing handcrafts with indigenous women in the Anastasia village. Here I've made my first sacred doll, the Beregina, and also started to stitch here the mountain, standing for our life's paths up and down, like the in and out breath. I also weaved my first belt and started to embroider the ruchnik, called all worlds Rushning, bringing together all different worlds. Here I've already started to do the first world, which is underneath the roots, and the roots, like on a live tree, for example. So digging deep to the and with me doing a lot of female remembering and crafting and seemingly healing the feminine ancestral root, and with Eric also doing his first spoon, doing mainly handcrafts. It felt like with every hand move a lot of healing between the male and the female over generations has occurred. And wearing those old Slavic traditional costumes, it felt like the whole world was celebrating with us, like this new reconciliation between the male and the female, and leading a wholly new form of a relationship. It was so beautiful. And now, upon my return, it feels like all the 7 different goddess powers, which are also embroidered on my protective dress, are now coming alive from the roots up to the top, after listening to my raven ancestral voice, as I've heard from Umash from the book Olga Kariditi. And now all those female powers have come, and it is like coming home to the roots, to our own, all of our ancestral roots, connecting with them, like I connected with this old tree on the right, which is over 1,000 years old, and I left a handkerchief there to symbolize my connection now with this tree. So the whole trip feels like the seed I planted of a life's tree, of my life's tree last year, is continuing to grow, and I continue to weave my thread by continuing to embroider this lie, all worlds Rushnik, and the thread is to be continued.